Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe. We are here for the second pre-season race of season number 8. Of course, my name is Jacob, taking you guys through this as always. Alongside myself for this evening, once again, Mr. Aidan Carter, commentated. How are you doing this evening, my friend?
Doing very well, thank you very much. Enjoying the nice cooler weather this time out compared to the last time we were doing an evaluation race, which is nice. And yeah, looking forward to this one tonight. I'm sure, as everybody that's watching knows, we've had a lot of changes from this time last week in terms of who's in this lobby and how the league is looking. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. It's almost going to be like a complete reset.
Yeah, no, it certainly would be. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to go down as well. Yeah, I will quickly just show you the drivers as well whilst we're loading into the lobby for yourself. So, of course, for lobby number 2 for this evening, as you can see on your screen, we have got Larkin, RJ, Gladback 100, if I said that right, Nolan, Miami, who isn't racing for tonight, that's Scream, XL Sully, DTR Brent, NLR Spetlap, who I think is also not racing tonight, IRT Rex, I think again another one, I could be completely wrong, More Games, QVR Kelvin, I know who's definitely not racing tonight, Super Mug, who has just been super booted out of the league, Timon, Cam K, Tope, Rick, Ryan B, which is Ryan Belshaw, QVR Chill and QVR Kunblight as well, who I believe is also not racing for tonight. So I think this is just put out a little bit previously before a few of the other guys said that they cannot race for tonight. But we are over into the lobby as well, and I will now just switch the screens for yourself so you can see 19 guys racing for tonight, and I'm intrigued to see on how a few more of these are going to do, because we've now switched it from 5 to 4 for the evaluation race, and I'm intrigued on how a few of these guys are going to do. A mix of Division 3 and Division 2 from the last season. Of course, a few of the new other guys as well, Aidan.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what these guys can do tonight. There's a few drivers that were in Lobby 3 last time out in France that have moved up. No sense to be, of course, we've got Ariel Felipe. Obviously, we know him as Nolan. Other people have moved up. Ryan Belshaw's moved up. More Games has moved up into this one. Brent has come up as well. There's quite a few people that have jumped from one lobby to the next. So be interested to see what they can do tonight. Chill, another one as well, who has moved up. Ben GS racing for the first time tonight. He's just back off from holiday, so he may be a bit of a slow starter, but he's in as well. So a few people we haven't seen yet that will have to play a part. And of course, Mexico, completely different configuration and track and skill needed to what we had at France. France obviously a lot longer, a lot more open corners. This track is a lot tighter. There's a lot more places to invalidate or go off the road. And of course, we've got to factor into tonight that it will be running damage for the first time this season. No safety car, but damage is on. So these drivers are going to have to keep it clean, and we'll have to see how they not only perform in terms of performance, but how their racecraft is as well.
Yeah, no, without a doubt as well. And I'm right on board with Mr. CPI Bunty, because he will be the first one to come across the line to start on his lap for this lobby 2. So we'll stick on board with the Haas driver and see how he gets on around the Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez circuit. Again, I probably absolutely butchered the name, but you know what? I'm not Spanish, so we'll roll with it anyway. But as I said, making his way up towards turn number 1 now comes Bunty, breaking it around the 100 metre board, keeping it in 4th gear, taking as much of that curb into turn 1. You want to be taking as much of that curb into turn 2 as possible. Bunty just opting to keep the safe option for now. Not too bad throughout those first 3 turns for the CPI driver. Now making his way up towards the end of sector 1. That's a 28.6 to start off with as QRT time and back into the session. Now quick little short shift down to 3rd and up into 4th for Bunty as well, making his way through the double rights. Now coming up towards the S section of the track, probably one of the hardest parts of the circuit, and especially now on this game, as Bunty does invalidate at the beginning of that S section, so he's not going to be putting on a valid lap time at the moment. And a few other guys behind him are out on laps. I believe Cam K being the next one. As I said, though, he has also invalidated, so I think we're going to see a lot of these throughout tonight. Probably a lot of quali times not going to be as representative. Well, obviously if you don't invalidate your lap, it won't be as representative as what a few of the other guys should be doing, shall we say, for tonight.
Yeah, going to see a lot of it. Like you say, this track is really difficult for track limits, so yeah, we're going to see a lot of those mistakes tonight. Ryan Belshaw is going to be the first person to finish a time in the Williams, crosses the line, and it's only a 17.6, so it's not fully competitive as of yet. We've had a spinner as well. I think Sneaky spun his Ferrari in the middle part of the lap, so that is another one that's gone round. Recurric now is 16.3. That's much more like it. Goes to the top of the timesheets in the Ferrari, so good lap from him. It's just looking to see who else. Gladbach is on a lap, crosses the line, just goes over a tenth of a second slower in the Alfa Romeo, so not too bad for him either. There is a lot of traffic in the final sector. I think a lot of people just backing off, having made mistakes or just starting runs, and I think it's caught a few people out towards the end of the lap, having so many people in that slow section at the very end of the track. Just drivers struggling to keep the car in the confines of the track at the moment. I think we also had a spin for Rex. He's gone again. Yeah, you could definitely say that a spin. He's only done a 43.9, so he is way off the pace on that first run. So first run's coming into the boards now. It's Recurric currently at the top ahead of Brent, but you've got to say this is quite a way off what the time should be. We're going to see pole position probably dipping into the high, maybe even the mid 15s.
Yeah, no, I'm expecting a few of these guys to get themselves into the 15s, especially this one I'm also watching on board with, Mr. CPI Bunty, making his way around the final corner now to get a proper valid lap in, and that is a 16.2 for the Hash driver, and I think that can be a bit quicker because I did see him running out of VRS in that third sector around the stadium section. I know it doesn't particularly use too much, but every little bit of that does help. Camke coming across the line as well, 118.1 for the American, so I'm expecting him to be going a little bit quicker, a lot quicker than that time as well. But yeah, all very sort of scruffy at the moment where everybody is right on board with the relentless driver Slash, and as I was about to, he goes a little bit wide out of the second to last corner, and that's given him an invalidation, and that would have actually put him on pole on 116.2 for that. That would have been for Slash, but unfortunately, as I said, that invalidation costed him that pole position so far. Ben JS in that Red Bull, will ride on board with him and see how he gets along, as he's just making his way around the final corner as well, a little bit further up. I believe that was QRT time and starting his lap, but Ben JS across the line and a 16.6, just up ahead of his Red Bull teammate of XLRJ. So a lot of different dynamics. A few guys I'm a bit surprised about, being Larkin and Sully being down in 9th and 10th for 17.2. I would have thought they'd be a lot higher than where they are at the moment, time-wise as well. But as I said, I know they're only first set of laps. I think people just still starting to get into grips with the track as well. So we'll see how that does sort of pan out throughout the rest of the qualifying session. We've got 12 more minutes left to go. First times on the board, Aiden. Anyone that's surprising you in particular?
I think more games for a start, being up there at the moment. Obviously, he was in Lobby 3 last time out in France. He's up there currently P5 in that McLaren on a 16.5, a good banker lap for more games. Of course, brand new to this league as well. He's competed in many a league in the past, but not League of Europe, so he is very new to us. So good start to qualifying for them. And yeah, likewise, like you said, there's a few drivers a bit further down. I'm quite surprised being that far down. I think that the 3XL drivers of RJ Larkin and Sully, you would expect a bit more from them. A 17.2 in the first ones for all three of them is not really competitive at all. Whether that is pure speed or whether they all made some sort of mistake on their run, we don't know. But yeah, not really competitive. And if we kind of cast our minds back to France, you've got to think Larkin, in terms of pace, Larkin and Sully weren't particularly competitive either, and RJ, we of course didn't see in Lobby 2 last time out. He was in Lobby 3. He had a solid enough run, but he wasn't the standout performer in Lobby 3 last time out. So yeah, interesting to see them so far down. We're still yet to see a few more times from some other people as well. Chill and Sneaky are now announced. Chill's coming towards the end of the run in the AlphaTauri, but it's not looking overly competitive. I think this might slot him in the gap between the two Red Bulls, actually, if he comes across the line now. Crosses the line, and it does just about stop right in between the two of them in P8. So we'll see what Sneaky can do. We've been warned a little bit about Sneaky tonight. He's potentially going to be very fast. He was fast last time out as well in France. He was one of the ones driving at the front in that top 6 train. He had a really good race in France. We'll see whether he can continue that on here tonight around the Mexico circuit as he comes through the final part of the lap now, the very slow stadium section, and then out of the final corner and the short run to the line. Ferrari currently third with Recurric. Sneaky goes to the top of the timesheets though. First driver into the 1 minute 15s, and as I said, he is definitely one to look out for tonight. Fast last time out, fast once again, and quite comfortably on provisional pole.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised that Sneaky is up there for certain. I know Verstappen was also saying that we do need to keep an eye out on him. So, yeah, I think that is probably the reason why. 15.9, as you said, straight away to the top of the timesheets. I'm just running on board with Ryan B, 1291, as he's just making his way through the double rights, now coming up towards the S section. Again, Ryan Belshaw was in Division 4 last season, and obviously with the mix of Divisions 3 and Division 2, with us obviously going to 4 evaluation races. But he is, unfortunately for him, probably, he's been put in the mix with a lot of quick guys. So we'll see how he does fare on. Currently sitting down in P13 at the moment, ahead of Cam K and Rex. So Rex hasn't really put on a representative time, but Ryan B is 4/10 up on his time. So this will put him at around where Sully and Larkin are in terms of timing wise. So I'm sure Ryan B will be quite happy with that. Now making his way around the final corner as Rick, the second one, into the 1 minute 15s, as Ryan B crossed the line into a 17.1, just sliding up ahead of QVR Chill. So not a bad time for Mr. Ryan B whatsoever. But yeah, Rick going on pole, the Ferraris, trying to represent what's going on in real life at the moment, I think.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're doing a good job of it at the moment, aren't they? Of Ferrari roleplay, we'll say at the moment for these two. But yeah, and a solid lap from Ryan B. I think one thing to note about Mexico, this track is quite notoriously difficult on traction. This is probably one of those tracks where some sort of track development throughout the qualifying session pays more than it does at other circuits. I think you'll see times get faster and faster as the session goes on. Speaking of someone going faster, RJ on a lap at the moment, nearly 0.4 of a second up through the second sector. So we'll see what the Red Bull driver can do. Can he pop himself in that fight towards the front in the low 16s? It's going to have to be a mega final sector for him to really challenge the top 5 on the grid as he crosses the line. And he actually lost a bit of time in the final sector. So a 16.9 for RJ. Now into the 16s, but again, not really where you would expect someone like RJ to be. So competitive in Division 3 last season, wasn't quite able to challenge for the title in the end, but it was still a great season for them. But yeah, just not looking all that fast tonight. We've got 4 drivers at the back still without times. The first of those that's going to be able to do a time is Felipe, coming around the final corner in the Alpine, crosses the line, and it is a 16.3 to go P5. So pretty competitive from Felipe there up towards the front of the field. Now just wait for his relentless teammates, Slash and Evans, to get times, but they've both invalidated their latest runs, so they'll be staying at the back for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, Slash once again invalidating on his time. I think he's actually gearing up to go for another one now. So, yeah, you can see Slash is now just actually going to be starting his lap. The other McLaren up in front as well. More games sitting in P7 at the moment. Again, I think was in Lobby 4 last week and had a pretty decent time with that, him in Miami as well as Gladbach. A 15.5 as his second lap. What a time that is. And that's 4/10 up ahead of Rick just on his second lap alone. So Gladbach, what a time that is. I think Verstappen was saying we need to keep an eye out on Sneaky. I think we need to keep an eye out on Gladbach because that is that's a high, or that was a mid to high D1 time, or Lobby 1 time, shall we say. So yeah, Gladbach, a very good case to possibly go up into Division 1. Obviously, we'll be deciding them tonight, so we'll see how that does go. But I'm still right on board with more games. 2.5 temps up on his time will put him up ahead of Bunty at the moment. So we'll see if he does carry this on through the stadium section. I know it can catch a lot of drivers out as well. So we'll see how more games does fare on as he's only making his way around the final corner now. More games comes up across the line, and it's a 16.0 up ahead of Bunty. Not into the 15s, but still pretty good time nonetheless.
Yeah, pretty solid time, like you say, and yeah, new to League of Europe. We've not really seen much of him, but he's already really proved himself so far in this championship. He's doing a very good job as his McLaren teammate Slash finally gets a lap on the board, and it's a 15.8, so starting to bridge the gap a bit between Gladbach and the 2 Ferraris. Good lap on the board, and of course that's on his second lap on that set of softs, so there's probably still a little bit of more time in that one just based on pure tyre performance alone. We'll see who else is on a lap. Sully's just started his next run in the session, still hasn't improved from that 17.2. Neither has Larkin. Larkin's just come out onto the track. Chill crossing the line next to go P11 on a 16.7 in the AlphaTauri. So not a bad lap from Chill whatsoever. Puts him... It's hard to say really where that would put him in relative terms to other lobbies at the moment, but there's a bit of a split in the field, isn't there? You've got the split at the very front, and you've got a lot of drivers pretty much from more games down to, well, Brent at the moment, fairly close together. And then just like we saw last time out in France, kind of midway through the pack, the field splits. You've got Brent on a 16.4, and then it's 0.3 back to Chill, and behind Chill it's again very close. So yeah, kind of a big split at the moment in the field as it stands, as I think Sneaky's just improved to do a 15.6, so goes up into second place, but still over a tenth and a half behind Gladbach at the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, no, that's still a very good time from Gladbach and from Sneaky, of course, as you said, putting them on, having a very solid case for a potential Division 1 for this season. Again, we'll have to keep our eye out on that one. But yeah, just under 5 minutes now left to go off the session. At the moment, the only person still not to put time on the board is Ariel Evans, and we know what he can be like as well. Kanke did improve on his time at the 17.4. Someone else just improved on their time, I believe.
Sully.
That was, XL Sully up into P9 in that Williams as well. So starting to make a bit more of a case for himself. Only 1,000th behind Ben JS. So yeah, I think there is a massive split within this division at the moment. You know, the top 11 all within the second, and then 12th all the way down into 18th. That's almost 2 seconds behind Gladbach. So yeah, I think this is I think it's going to be a bit interesting, a bit of an interesting dynamic between the rest of the division. I'm sure we'll probably be seeing a lot of changing going on throughout tonight, but again, it's not always done in quality, it's always done in the race, so we'll see how everyone else does fare on. I'm going to ride on board with Mr. Felipe, aka Nolan, and see how he gets on. Sitting in 10th position at the moment in the Alpine, but I know he has gone a bit quicker than that 16.3, so we'll see how he does get on as he makes his way up in towards turn number 1. More games, no, it wasn't more games, sorry, Rex going up into P6 at the 16.1, so the American also trying to make a bit of a stronger case as well for cementing himself in Division 2. Larkin as well, 16.2 for the Alfa Romeo as well, as Felipe towards the end of Sector 1. 400s up on his time, not too bad at the moment, but I'm assuming it's through these final 2 sectors is where he does need to improve on that time, so we'll see if he does manage to do that. As I said, just making his way up through the S section now. Goes a bit wide on the entry of it though, and invalidates on his times, so unfortunately for Nolan, he's going to have to try and he's going to get back to the pits at least, but he does need to get himself straight back out to get himself back within that top 10 and possibly even try and fight within the top 5, because I said I know what his pace can be like. He's trying to make a case for himself in Division 1 as well as myself, so yeah, we'll see how that does fare on. Larkin has actually binned it out of the double right-handers.
Yeah, dropped the car, unfortunately, on traction. That's him in the wall, so that's Larkin's session over and done with. 7th is the best they can hope for. Was Felipe's actually decided to go out again on the same set of tyres, which I think is a bit interesting. If he came into the pits now, he would have just been able to have enough time to go out again because the lap is so short here in terms of time, but he's kind of compromising himself by going through another run on the same set of tyres. So, interesting call there from Felipe, but we'll see what he can do nonetheless on these runs. Ryan Belshaw, I think, has just finished that, but it's only a 17 flat, didn't improve. Well, only improved by about a tenth of a second on his previous best, so he stays down in 17th position for the time being. I think Felipe is the only one on a lap at the moment, so we'll see what the Alpine driver can do throughout the rest of the lap. First sector on the board now, but he has gone completely out of track limits, and that is remained valid. But yeah, this lap is, well, if he completes this lap, then it's not exactly a great representation of what his pace is.
Yeah, no, for sure, it definitely isn't as well. You know, I'm going to ride on board with Brent. He's only just starting on his lap as well. Down in 13th position at the moment at 16.4 for the Dutchman in Aston Martin. I'm assuming that we will see that time go a bit quicker very soon. But coming up towards the end of Sector 1 comes Brent. And yeah, 700s up on his time. This will at least put him up ahead of Felipe's time at the moment, as well as potentially challenging for Sully and Ben JS. Obviously, if you're new to this new F1 game, everyone does get a fresh start on their tyres. Yeah, Felipe has come into the pits, so he's going to back out of that one for himself as well. But yeah, hopefully Brent doesn't get caught up, because there's a little bit of traffic up ahead as he comes through the S section. They did get out of the way, and Brent does invalidate on his time coming through the S's. As I said, we're going to be seeing a lot of that throughout tonight, and I think that's where we're going to see a lot of penalties get picked up in that position as well. He does have enough time to go for one more, be on the same set, and will probably not have the ERS that he needs for it, but there's still the opportunity to improve on that as well. One person I am going to be looking at though is Ariel Slash. Well, as I say that, I'll go on board with him, and he's invalidated on his lap time, so I guess we won't look on board with him because I think he is just gearing up to start his final lap now. Although saying that, he is still burning his ERS, interestingly enough.
Yeah, very interesting choice there from Sash, but I was just riding a ball with RJ. He was going to be the next person to set a time, but as I was about to say that, he's also invalidated in the final part of the lap, what would have been a 16.5, so it wouldn't really have got him much further up the grid. It only would have got him ahead of Chill on the grid as it stands, and Chill himself is also improving. So, see what Chill can do in the rest of this lap. I think we've got one of the Ferraris coming up towards the line. That is Sneaky just starting their final run in the session. Rex just behind as well. So next will be Bunty to cross the line, and Bunty, 0.3 of a second up, bit of a wobble through the final corner, cost him about 1/10 of a second, but it's a 16 flat for Bunty. Good lap there, goes into P5 for the time being. I don't know who would be next across the line. It'll be Evans. Evans finally has a valid run on the board, crosses the line, and it's a valid run that's good enough to put in P6. So it took him the whole session to get a valid time on the board, but when he gets one in, it's a pretty competitive time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Gladbach just showing he can go even quicker than that 15.5, a 15.1 for Gladbach to put himself on pole. What an insane time that is, for certain. I'm even before the race we were seeing that. I think that's pretty much Division 1 pace, just before we even see how he is in the race. So yeah, that's it's pretty insane time, I've got to admit. I'm going to run on board with more games though, as he's just making his way up towards the line. A little bit of a wobble out of that final corner, but up into P5 for the McLaren driver. 15.977 as I said, slots him up into 5th position. Bunty, I believe, is still going for it, although saying that, no, he has actually completely ran out of ERS as well. So yeah, I think Bunty is just going to be coming into the pits. The Ferrari though of Sneaky did improve on his time at 15.619 for the QVR driver. So both of those guys showing that they can try and hang with the Division 1 guys. But yeah, I think Gladbach, to put it simple, I think you're getting moved up, buddy. I don't think there's any sort of question about it. A 15.1 is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous lap time. In fact, a 15.1 in the Lobby 1 lobby we just had would have put him, I believe, 3rd on the grid in Lobby 1, just behind the two Haas cars, which absolutely dominated that race. So, yeah, brilliant lap time. Where on earth was that pace last week? Because that would have been lovely to know his pace last week. It would have been a lot easier for us for this week in terms of evaluation. But, yeah, we'll run you through the grid. In the end, it looks severely spread out. It is pretty close if you take away the top two, but Gladbach on pole by nearly half a second ahead of Sneaky. Then it is Slash in 3rd. Sneaky and Slash, again, they were at the front in France. They're at the front again today. So is Rakurik then right at the front, as you would expect in P4. More games, good qualifying. So good qualifying for the Ferraris and the McLarens. Then it's Bunty, Evans, Rex, Sully and Larkin in the top 10. Larkin 10th, a second off the pace. Christ, that was a lap, wasn't it, from Gladbach at the end of the session. Scream in 11th ahead of Ben, JS and Felipe. Brent, Chill, RJ, Thyman, Ryan B and Kamke are your final finishers. Kamke, I don't think really got a properly representative time on the board, but I think, yeah, Ryan B and Kamke there maybe a little bit too slow, potentially, for Lobby 2 by the looks of things. But, yeah, you can't really say much about Gladbach, can you? I do fear that he's probably just going to absolutely run away with this on, and we're just going to be commentating over the battle for 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah, no, without that, that's a bit of an interesting one. So I don't care if you sign up for A10, you expect to be D1. So that's all I'll say, because that's an insane time. But yeah, we're just waiting for everyone to get their strategies all sorted out, and we can get this one straight underway. I don't think there's any sort of question that Gladbach will probably be winning this race for tonight. Possibly we'll have Sneaky and Slash in 2nd and 3rd. It depends, because as I said, around here you can pick up a lot of penalties, and I expect that we'll probably be seeing a lot of those for tonight. But it is only just an evaluation race, more just to see how people's paces are. Of course, damage is on, just as a little bit of a reiteration. So if you see someone without any sort of front wing, then that makes it a little bit more interesting, to say the least, for themselves. But yeah, hopefully it is all nice and clean throughout tonight, and hopefully we do see some very good racing between a lot of these guys. Is there anyone outside of that top 3, Aiden? Do you think that could possibly show up? Anyone even outside the top 10 or anything like that?
It's going to be interesting. I think there's a few people that have qualified out of position compared to the pace I think we know that they can do. I think Felipe and Brent, 13th and 14th, are two drivers you would say have more pace than 13th and 14th on the grid. So you probably would expect those two to work their way through the field a little bit more. As opposed to anybody else that I'm looking out for tonight, again, more games. I'm quite pleasantly surprised by the pace that he's had in qualifying. That is a really strong qualifying showing for him. So up in 5th place, it'd be nice to see what they can do race pace-wise. Like I mentioned last time out in France, the difference between quali speed and race speed is a lot bigger than it ever has been, really, in recent years for league racing. So somebody that's really good in qualifying could really struggle in the race. You'll have to wait and see what they all do. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. And again, penalties, like you say, penalties going to be difficult tonight. I do fear for drivers like Slash and Evans. It took them quite a while to get a valid run in the session, so that maybe doesn't bode well for the race. So we'll keep an eye on those two specifically, though. I'm sure there'll be other drivers as well that may struggle a little bit. As I'm just looking at the tyres, what a shock. Everybody is on the hard compound tyres. I don't think that is a surprise. If you know by now, hard medium around this track is definitely the preferential strategy.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think we're going to see... Well, hopefully there'll be a lot of good racing between everyone within the pack. Obviously, as I said, it's going to be pretty split between a lot of these guys. I think we'll probably see Gladbach just sort of shoot off into the distance, and we'll see Sneaky attempt to try and keep up with him. For how long? We don't know. I think that'll be a good insight into that. But yeah, as for everybody else, I think we'll see a lot of good racing between a lot of these guys. I think Ryan B, not exactly off to a good start. He has spun through the S section, so hopefully that's not a sign of things to come for him. Hopefully him and Kanke can try and move their way up through the field. Timon as well. I know, of course, him moving to no assists makes that a bit more interesting, to say the least, but hopefully we'll be able to start seeing his pacing improve a lot more throughout the season as well. Yeah, as I said, Felipe and Brent, I think ones that we'll need to try and keep our eye out for towards the back end. As everyone now approaching their grid positions, and we can get this one straight underway, and I'll let you go ahead and I'll take it away. You can take it away as well.
Brilliant stuff then. Here come the lights staying ahead of the drivers. It's Gladbach Hasiki on the front row. Who gets the best run down towards turn number 1? Long hold on the lights, but we are away, and it's actually Sneaky that gets the better of the start on the front row of the grid. In fact, Slash, even from 3rd on the grid, has had a brilliant start and is going to try and split the middle on the long run down towards turn number 1. Now's the chance to see who's got a fast car in a straight line, and Slash immediately dropping back in behind Gladbach at turn 1. Sneaky down into the inside, but as you would expect, Gladbach holding the lead through turns 1 and 2. Sneaky going to try and keep it down the inside and just slams straight into the side of the Alfa Romeo and has spun around. That move was never really on, just bounced off the curb and spun to the back of the field. So now it's a recovery drive through the field, unfortunately, for Sneaky. We've got the two McLaren side by side, more games trying to get down the inside, but backing out of that one and losing out to Rex, who's had a brilliant start from 8th on the grid. He's up 4 places already in the Mercedes. He is through Bunty now, trying to get a move done as well, but I think he's just made a little bit of contact with the back of More Games car, so that may be a little bit of damage from that contact, but a fairly clean start throughout the field. We've not really seen any major incidents apart from Sneaky spin. As I say that, we've got contact midway through the field. Evans has crashed into the wall. Ryan B has made contact, I believe, with I think Thyman and Felipe were involved in that one. So a couple of drivers with no front wing on their cars and towards the back of the field. So yeah, that is a real shame. In the S section, it kind of unraveled for a few drivers in the mid part of the pack, but at the front, as you would expect, Gladbach leading, and with all the carnage behind, Rekurik in 2nd position has completely dropped Rex, who's gone from 8th to 3rd in 1 lap.
Yeah, the American having a very, very good start as well. Slash, by the way, now down in 10th position. Not a good start whatsoever for the relentless driver. As I said, already down in 10th behind that Scream. And in fact, actually, Slash trying to get that move back done on the Haas driver. You can see Ryan B trying to slot in between all of this as well. Seeing if he can maybe try and get past him. Slash still side by side with that Scream going in towards turn number 1. Has to back out of that one. And Slash now down into 10th position. And I think that's sort of solidified now down in 10th, unfortunately, for himself. But yeah, a lot of carnage ensued at the back of the grid. Surprised Cam came in to get through all of that whilst he was seeing all of that just unfold in front of him. Ryan Bedo, very good start for him, up into 11th position already, and as I said, trying to battle that Scream. In fact, that Scream making a little bit of a mistake. Ryan B going down the inside of that Scream trying to go for a bit of a switchback coming before the S section. Ryan B going to hold that inside line and gets the move done. What a move that was from Ryan B through that double right-hander as well. So very nicely done from him. As I said, that Scream now unfortunately spinning around at the beginning of the S section, so that's another one taking a bit of damage. But yeah, what an interesting lap one through I think it was Evans, Felipe Timon, RJ, and I think Ryan B was also caught up within that, but came away unscathed throughout all of that.
Yeah, the one that got away unscathed is a 19.6 for first lap on a hard compound tyres. That is a brilliant opening lap. But fair play to Rekurik. Rekurik is tagging on to the back. I mean, if you look at his ERS, though, Rekurik's already down to 20% at the end of lap 2, and Gladbach still got 65% in his reserves. So Rekurik using a lot to try and stay with, but what it is doing is allowing Rekurik to drop Rex big time. 2.5 seconds already between Rekurik and Rex as we get onto lap 3 of this race. Further down the field, Brent and Chill running side by side. Brent gets the move done. I think Chill may have a little bit of damage from that contact on the opening lap, but decided not to pit. He's really struggling in the S section at the moment in this lap. So yeah, I think he may be struggling a bit with a little bit of damage to scream into the pit lane to replace that front wing and put the medium compound tyres on that car. Is just seeing if there's anybody close enough for a move at the moment. I think the first person that's likely to go for a move will be Bunty. DRS is now enabled. Bunty just within half a second of More Games, who's holding fourth at the moment, and More Games at the moment at least not quite able to keep up with Rex in front.
No, but still doing a very good job, as Brent has had the spin again at the beginning of the S section. Has his front wing been taken completely off? It has. So the Dutchman, unfortunately, another one that falls victim at the beginning of the S's. Chill also getting overtaken by Sneaky. Sneaky, of course, having making contact with Gladbach in that first lap. As Gladbach, another fastest lap at 19.6 now for the Alfa Romeo driver, as Felipe has actually binned it at the exit of the double right. So I'm going to ride on board with that scream. And yeah, the same place where Larkin did it in quali, Felipe's done the exact same thing. So very unfortunate for Nolan, now out as well. And yeah, the second driver to retire already from the session. A lot of carnage going on, Aidan.
Yeah, a little bit of a race of attrition already, isn't it? This is not quite what we wanted to see. We wanted to see everybody at their best, trying to get as good a result as they could. But yeah, a lot of drivers already kind of out of play in this race, and some drivers spinning and being taken out. It's been a bit of a messy start to this race, but out front, Gladbach is just driving away with things at the moment. I think Rekurik's probably resigned himself to the fact that he's not going to be able to keep up with the Alfa Romeos. So he's going to just solidify what could be at this point in the race a very easy second place finish. He's now 3 seconds clear of Rex. So Rekurik, clearly one of those drivers that maybe doesn't shine as much in qualifying, but in the race, his race pace is very, very strong, as Rex and Thyman are the first drivers to have time penalties for exceeding track limits, and that's already only on lap 4, so that's a bit of a worry for those drivers picking up those penalties. There's a bit of a train forming behind More Games. It's Bunty, Ben JS, Sully, Larkin and Slash all in the queue there, and then Ryan B a bit further back being overtaken now by Sneaky, who's working his way back through the field quite nicely and is already now back into the top 10 after that contact at turn 3 on lap 1. So not a bad recovery so far from Sneaky, as Thyman has now crashed in the middle part of the lap. So Thyman's horrendous start to the F122 game continues.
Yeah, no, certainly is. And you can already see Ryan B trying to go back through on Sneaky and actually gets that move done through the DRS. So Ryan B, as I said, was in the Division 4 last season. Sneaky, who you could argue was potentially sort of for Division 1 pace, having a good battle, and Ryan B sort of trying to prove himself as well to try and stay within Lobby 2 for Division 2, shall I say, for the season. So very good start from him indeed. Sneaky still can't seem to find a way past Ryan B, and like you say, at the front of the grid as well, Rick, unfortunately for him, completely dropped by Gladbach now, already now almost 2 seconds up ahead, but Rick has dropped the rest of the guys as well. So Rick, a very good start for him, and again, his campaign, and potentially also for a Division 1 spot, or to stay in Division 2, shall we say. But yeah, no, very good start from those two guys up ahead as well. Rex picking up that first time penalty, and I'm assuming that won't be the first one that we will be seeing throughout the entirety of tonight's grid. But yeah, More Games starting to create a little bit of a bit of a train for himself, being that conductor at the front of that. He needs to keep it up quite nicely with Rex. If he could just try and get a little bit more momentum out of a few of the corners, then he has a good opportunity, as Ben JS dropping it out of the final corner. I don't know if he's gotten himself any wing damage if he did end up hitting the wall, but Ben, unfortunately for him, it doesn't look as if he's got any damage, but unfortunately out of that final corner ended up down now in 11th position behind Sneaky, behind Ryan B, and in fact we might even see Sneaky try and go around the outside of Ryan B in towards turn number 1. No, we will not, but he looks like he's going to try and go for a bit of a better run coming out of turn number 3, and it looks like he's got the better run. DRS is also going to be open as well for the Portuguese. Is he going to get the move done going around the outside of turn number 4? It's looking like he will. They're still side by side. Ryan B trying to hold it around the outside, giving Sneaky just that little bit of room as possible. Sneaky does shove him off the track though, and gets that position in the end. And there you can see Ben Diaz trying to go down the inside of Ryan B as well. Ryan B unfortunately losing 2 positions in the space of 3 corners, now down into 11th position. But you can see Larkin has spun as well at the beginning of those S's, so everyone is really struggling through those S sections.
Yeah, everybody from 8th down has had some sort of moment in this race. It's been really difficult for a lot of these drivers already, so only the top 7 so far have... Well, actually, not even Slash. Slash had his moment on the opening lap of the race. So, yeah, everybody... only the top 6 have gotten through this race unscathed so far. They've not had any issues. So, yeah, been a bit of a hectic start to this race, as Bunty now, I think, is closer to more games. More games is now D-racing as well, so Bunty with a lot more ERS in his reserve is just going to breeze past the McLaren in towards turn number 1. Good and easy move for the Haas car as he's up into 4th position. Bunty can now think about chasing after Rex, going for that final spot on the podium, and now is an opportunity as well for more games to just sit back and recover some of that ERS if he can keep up with the Haas in front. Those spins as well for Ben JS, and Larkin has split this train up a bit now, so Slash has dropped off the back now, 1.7 back, and Sully is now teetering on the edge of losing DRS to more games. But as I say, that more games outbreaks himself in turn 4, and that puts Sully right back in range. So, yeah, it's all starting to spread out a little bit now after those earlier spins. Larkin's into the pits for his medium compound tyres after that spin. I think he picked up damage. So, yeah, a lot of drivers towards the back of the field that you maybe wouldn't expect to see that far down really having difficult races. Of course, some people caught up in lap point incidents, but Larkin is famous for having really, really consistent seasons and kind of popping up in the middle out of the blue out of nowhere in some of these races and getting decent results. But so far for him, France didn't go his way, and Mexico hasn't gone his way so far either.
Yeah, no, not a good start for Larkin's campaign whatsoever, and yeah, he might even be looking on the cusp of a Division 3, because that's it's very interesting, to be honest with you. Larkin, as I said, not exactly a good race in France. I'm sure he probably would have wished he could have done better, and not exactly a good one either in Mexico, so the things could be a bit interesting. But a little bit further up, Sully and more games. I think these two do know each other quite well as well. Scoring 4th retirement of this race, and again at the S section, so not a good... It's just proving that everyone really is struggling. As I said, other than those top 7, top 8 are all really struggling throughout that S section. Yeah, Sully and more games. I think more games and Sully both racing. I think it's like an Irish league that they're both racing, and I'm sure these two know each other quite well. But Sully got the move done on more games, and Sully also picking up a 3-second time penalty as well as Chill. So obviously the next two to pick those up. And again, as I said, I don't think that'll be the last ones that we will see. We're only on lap number 8 of 36, and we've already seen 4 retirements and 3 penalties picked up. I think there's a lot more that we're going to be seeing tonight. As I say, that is the 4th one that's been picked up by Ben JS. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of the field spread come about as well. Bunty starting to close back up to Rex after getting the move done on more games. As saying that, I think that is Ryan B at the exit of the S's. Having that spin, has he gotten himself wing damage? He has got no front wing, so yes, he has.
Yeah, add that one to the list. If anybody's keeping tally, please keep tally of how many spins, because I've already lost count and we're only 9 laps into this race. It's been a hectic race so far, unfortunately, which is a shame to see. Just looking at that battle at the front of the field, so the gap is kind of stabilising now between Rekurik and Rex. I think now that Rekurik is well out of slipstream and DRS range of Gladbach and doesn't have any sort of reference, Rekurik is just kind of eased into a simpler run of speed now. Rex is just matching Rekurik at this point in the race. Rex is about a 10th or 2/10 a lap faster than Bunty behind, so since Bunty got that move done, he's not really been able to close in. He's got a faster car in a straight line by the looks of things, but he's just not got the grip in the middle part of the lap to close in on the Mercedes in front. Sully as well, not quite able to close back into the back of Bunty, and more games likewise is just falling away. So I wonder if more games is just struggling a little bit with tyre temperatures, or whether he's just working those tyres too much and they're wearing a little bit too much, just because he started off the race really, really strong, but he's just kind of falling away more and more as the race goes on. So yeah, not looking too great at this point. I think the good thing so far for more games is he's got no penalties, he's not spun, and pretty much everybody behind him has. So he's kept it clean and neat and tidy, and that's what you kind of need to do in these kind of races, is just keep it clean, keep it out of the wall, and be nice and consistent. So that's exactly what More Games is doing at the moment. We'll just say hello to Gladbach while we can. He is still leading this race. He is still here. He is on lap 10, leading the race by 4 seconds. He is comfortably in the lead of this one. So No surprise there whatsoever, as I think Chill is the latest driver to have a spin just at the exit of the stadium section. So Chill now with a spin in that AlphaTauri. I would love to know if he's got some sort of damage, because I don't think Chill's this slow, but he's just, not had a good time of it so far in this race, unfortunately, as I think the two McLarens have now swapped positions. Yes, they have. Slash now back up into 6th.
Yeah, Slash did get that move done in the end. More games, like you say, he's just kept it nice and consistent so far. I think we have found our first, I suppose we could say, quali merchant, because he did do very well in qualifying, but unfortunately it's just not panning out for him in the race. But despite that, he's still keeping it nice and consistent. So I think he's not doing too bad of a job so far, and hopefully he does try and keep up with the rest of the guys as well. Just to see how it does go. But yeah, as I said, a few of the other guys, Sully all over the back of Bunty. Sully's now starting to show a bit more pace in his back pocket in comparison to a few of the other guys. Sully, I think, was about 1 and a bit seconds. Of saying that, Bunty makes a massive mistake through the stadium section. I don't know if that was just allowing him to get DRS instead of Sully, but yeah, Bunty, I think that was a bit of a mistake from his driver. He does get the DRS in the end on Sully, but Sully trying to use that DRS to try and get away from Bunty. I think that's just going to put him more at jeopardy of getting overtaken by Bunty. But unfortunately for Bunty, now down in 5th position, Sully up into 4th. Are we going to maybe see him start to catch up to Rex's RJ, the 5th person now to pick himself up a penalty? And another thing to quickly note as well, Rick did gain on Gladbach, I think, by about 2 tenths in that lap. So Rick now, I think, starting to get a bit more used to these tyres and starting to try and edge down Gladbach. But I think it's pretty much set in stone for these top 3 at the moment. Unless something happens between them, I think it might be a little bit set in stone at the moment. Potentially if Bunty doesn't pick up a penalty.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? I think Bunty did actually make an honest mistake, and then in the split second he made this mistake, thought, do you know what, I may as well just let Sully go. Sully looks a bit faster at this point in the race. So if Bunty can't close in on Rex, let Sully close in on Rex and drag Bunty closer, because, of course, like we mentioned, Bunty doesn't have a penalty at this point in the race. Both Rex and Sully do. So by dropping behind Sully at this point in the race, Bunty's not really losing anything. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, Sully really struggled last time out in France, really didn't have any pace, was running at the back with Thyman for the majority of the race. So quali wasn't really strong, and as I was about to talk him up, he's just spun coming out of the final corner, and he's put the car in the wall. So that is potentially a front wing change for the Williams as well. So that is a lovely, beautiful commentator's curse if I've ever seen one. And just as we were about to big him up and say that he was having a good run and showing great race pace, he's spun the car and binned it and now sped into the pit lane. So yeah, a bit of a disaster there for Sully. So he's now out of the running. So if Bunty did purposely let Sully go to try and help him claw some time back to Rex, that's completely backfired on him, because he's now fallen back into the clutches of the McLarens, and Rex is now a second further up the road.
Yeah, no, for sure. So not a good one for Sully whatsoever. Hopefully he can get the hopefully he can just try and mosey on up in the back. He might have to make another pit stop, as well as obviously all the other guys that are on a set of the medium tyres. All probably will have to make another stop to try and again, just so we can at least see what their pace is like. An interesting thing to note, Larkin is the one with the fastest lap so far, a 19.3 on those medium tyres. So Gladbach, again, I know he probably wants to try and go for the fastest lap, and will more than likely get it when he does pit onto the set of the medium tyres, which we'll probably see a lot of guys start to make their way in. Probably, I would say, somewhere around 18 to 20, we'll probably see a lot more pit stops coming in. Again, it depends if people want to try and go for an overcut / an undercut, but at the moment, it's just there are a lot of gaps forming. Slash, I think closest one being Slash and Bunty with each other. But at the moment, Bunty, I think, in fact, did start to close in to the back of Rex by about 3 tenths of a second on the last lap. So I'm just trying to keep an eye out on the different deltas between everyone. It's a lot to take in, because there's a lot of gaps that are forming with each other. But yeah, Bunty and Slash look like they seem to start to close into the back of Rex slightly. So hopefully we can see a battle emerge between those 3 guys as more games has lost DRS to Slash, and Sneaky is also starting to close up to the back of more games as well. Having that spin on the first lap, Sneaky is looking probably, I would say, the second quickest on the track at the moment, maybe third quickest behind Rick and Gladbach, but Sneaky is definitely making himself back up, or making these positions back up, and if he can try and keep it clean as well, then hopefully we'll see the QVR driver maybe make his way into the top 3.
Yeah, he's doing by his namesake at the moment, isn't he? He's just sneaking up to the back of this queue again. He obviously had that spin early on, dropped right to the back of the field and has clawed his way back through and is already back onto the back of the McLaren. So, yeah, he's definitely got good pace at this point, does Sneaky. I think Slash another one as well. Arthur, he's maybe not quite used to the game yet. He is still making little errors here and there, but his race pace continues to be strong and he is now onto the back of Bunty. So I think this should be a fairly easy move for Slash down the pit straight on the back of the Haas. And I think Bunty is now starting to reclose in on Rex, so I think it might be smart now for Bunty to let Slash go, and Slash can now tow him and the Haas driver up towards Rex, and there'll be a battle now for third in this race. So, yeah, Slash is through up into fourth, so good recovery from them as we've got another spinner, and I think that is Sully for the second time who has had a spin. Yep, Sully's gone off somewhere in the S section, so yeah, a horror show of a race, unfortunately, for the Williams drivers. Ryan B at the back now with the penalty as well, so yeah, I think it's fair to say that while Sully's got some good raw speed in that car, he's just not used to the game at the moment and is really struggling for pace, as with quite a few drivers in this field. Just like to point out as well, Ben JS spun earlier on in this race, quite a big spin in the S section. He dropped a lot of places and he's now back into 8th position already. So yeah, he's just goes to show what happens if you keep it clean. You can gain a lot of positions. So Kamke's done that. He's kept it clean pretty much this majority of this race, despite not really having a lot of raw speed. He's kept it clean and is running 9th completely on his own under no threat from behind.
Saying that though, he then picks up the 3-second time penalty, so that's a little bit of a curse on him. Sorry about that, Cam, but that's just the way it goes, I suppose. But yeah, we're now starting to see a little bit more of a battle going on. More Games has actually caught up to the back of Bunty, and Bunty really now starting to struggle as he's dropped back from Slash. In fact, only just about kept the DRS on the McLaren. Luckily, it will bring him back in within a second, but More Games and Sneaky are now starting to close back up. I mean, more Games are getting dropped by Bunty previously, and now he's back within the DRS. I say that, though, he didn't actually pick up any DRS, so I wonder if Bunty made a mistake through the stadium section once again, which has then allowed, it allowed Slash to get away and Sneaky and More Games to catch back up. And saying that, though, yeah, More Games did actually pick up DRS, so yeah, I think Bunty might have made some sort of mistake within the stadium section. Slash, though, 1.6 seconds now off of the back of Rex, and Bunty, as I was saying about him, picks up another 3-second time penalty for himself. Sorry, his first 3-second time penalty for him as well. So yeah, Bunty really struggling now, but Slash is on a mission to catch up to the back of the American, and I think we might end up seeing a battle for third, possibly within the next coming laps, because Slash, he's looking like he is gaining on Rex exponentially, as Sully once again spinning at the S section. He did come into the pits for a set of soft tyres. He's been lapped by everyone from 8th downwards, so Sully is not having the best of times, and it's only lap 16.
Yeah, he's having a bit of a disaster, isn't he, unfortunately? So yeah, a lap down, we're not even halfway through. It's been a bit of a shocker, unfortunately, for Sully, but at least he has got some real speed there. So once he's able to unlock it, he's definitely got the pace there. It's just being able to do it consistently. He is Sneaky now, cruising up to the back of More Games, up to turn number 1, goes for a look down the inside, but More Games brakes a little bit later than the Ferrari, and Sneaky has to back out of the move, but of course More Games doesn't have DRS, so I think Sneaky will just be able to breeze past on the run towards turn number 4, and he does so. So Sneaky then up into 6th position, and everybody pretty much within his range in front of him now has a penalty, so Sneaky here still looking good for a podium despite being last at the end of the first sector on the first lap. So yeah, good comeback through the field. I've been looking at people's race directors in terms of race times as well, and lap times at the moment. Of course, Gladbach absolutely dominating proceedings at the front of the field. Behind that, Sneaky, Rekurik and Slash are all very, very similar on race pace at the moment. I think Slash and Sneaky, of course, being helped a little bit by the fact that they get the benefit of DRS every now and then, but either way, they're all very, very similar on race pace. Rekurik in clean air, he's got great race pace as well. So I think we're kind of being, as I think Sully may have just had another spin. Yep, Sully's had another spin, unfortunately, now. So make that spin number 4 in this race for the Williams driver, sadly. So yeah, as I was saying, I think Gladbach's incredible performance is kind of masking how good of a performance Rekurik is doing at the moment. If Gladbach wasn't here, you would be saying Rekurik is a shoe-in for D1, because his quali pace was solid. It wasn't amazing, but his race pace is a lot faster than everybody else around them at the moment, as Slash now continues his march back through the field and has managed to get past Rex. So in recent laps, Rex's pace has just tailed off ever so slightly, so maybe Rex just burning out his tyres just a little bit too much at this point in the race. Slash now up into third, so it'll be interesting to see what Slash can do now relative to Rekurik, whether the gap stays the same, whether it grows or whether it comes down. I think you've got to say, if we're looking at top of D2 pace at the moment, Rekurik is the benchmark as it stands.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems that way. Him, Slash, and I would also say Bunty as well. Sneaky, Gladback, I think probably I would say, well, Gladback is a shoo-in for D1, but Sneaky trying to sort of prove himself as well, trying to get that Division 1 seat, as I'm seeing Slash jittering everywhere on my screen as Sneaky picks up the 3-second time penalties. So what would have been trying to get a jump, and same with more games, both of those guys at the same corner, everyone's jumping everywhere for me, and I don't understand what's going on with that. Hopefully that's only just like a small little bug with the game, but yeah, at the moment everything still seems to be running pretty smoothly other than that little jump going through the S section. But yeah, you can already see how much Slash is trying to get away from those guys behind him, and already a second up ahead of Rex. He does pick up the DRS, however, because it was the detection zone just in at the stadium, at the end of the stadium section, which he was just still within a second, only by a thread. But yeah, Rex, I think next lap we're going to see him lose that DRS, and Slash is just going to be allowed to sort of soar off into the distance up ahead of these three. And with that penalty now to Sneaky into more games, it's going to prove them a lot more difficult if they want to get themselves on that podium. But at the moment, yeah, it's looking like Gladback, Rick and Slash will be our podium sitters unless they pick up another penalty, or if they do what half of the other side of the lobby have done and spin it through that S section. I think at the moment is how what we're looking at is what we're going to be seeing throughout the rest of the evening. But these guys from third down to sixth position, all having a pretty good battle. The rest of them, I think it's pretty set in stone where we can say that they are. But yeah, at the moment, it's a bit of an interesting dynamic we're seeing as a Sneaky all over the back of Bunty, trying to go for it into the stadium section. Ben JS picks up yet another 3-second time penalty, getting a bit of a bad camera angle through that, but Sneaky has to stay behind Bunty, and Bunty now losing DRS to Rex. Rex, by the way, picked it up a little bit more on this lap as he managed to keep within DRS of Rex. And in fact, Bunty, yeah, as I said, I know he was having a little kerfuffle with Sneaky, but he's now lost that DRS, and I think Sneaky, we're going to see the QVR driver go through on the Haas driver. And an interesting thing to note, more games, the first one into the pits for a set of the medium tyres to go to the end of the race.
Yeah, not a surprise, I think, to see somebody in this early for the medium compound tyres. They could get to the end of the race very easily from now, and more games had just dropped off the back of this queue, so this is an opportunity for him to potentially get back into the queue of cars that he was in front. So smart move there for more games, and because of how spread out the field is, he comes out into acres of clean air, so he is absolutely fine to warm up his tyres, and he'll have a clean outlap out of the pit lane. Just like I mentioned, I was keeping an eye on the gaps between Rekurik and Slash at this point. Slash is about a couple of tenths a lap slower than Rekurik in clean air, so it's a good reference point. You've got to say Slash would probably be top of D2 pace as it stands. I think Rekurik is D1 pace at the moment with the race pace that he's showing in clean air with no real benefit around, and saving ERS on top of that as well. So yeah, that's the way it's looking at the moment. Sneaky now, he's got his opportunity to close back in on Rex and Slash in front. We'll be able to see what his pace is, hopefully, as well, once he gets a little bit more clean air. And again, I think Bunty just kind of suffering from the same problem as more games, where the stint starts off very well, but the further they get into the stint on worn tyres, the less comfortable they feel and just more pace they drop, because, of course, Bunty was running in a comfortable fourth earlier on in this race. He's now down to sixth and is just starting to lose touch with the drivers in front. So, yeah, Bunty, good pace so far, but just lacking consistency as the tyre wears off. And now that Rex is back within DRS range of Slash, he's looking a lot more comfortable again. So I think having a reference point in front of him is actually helping Rex a little bit more at this point in the race.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So they've just sort of kept it nice and clean, and they've just been able to do what they can do as well. More games, his tyres are probably now quite heated up, so we're going to probably now start to see the Irishman, see how he will try and fare on and bringing that gap down to the rest of those guys. As I said, he was within that train with Slash, Rex, Sneaky and Bunty. I think just a couple of seconds behind. So we'll see if he can maybe gain some time on the rest of these guys. But I'm assuming I'm going to ride on board with Gladback. You know, just been running his own race. You know, he's just nice and chill, nice and calm at the front. Are we going to see him make his way into the pits this lap? No, he does opt to stay out. I'm assuming this is where we would start to see a lot of the pit stops coming into fruition, is Rick coming in. He also opts to stay out. Now, this is what I'm interested to see. Are the rest of these guys from 3rd to 6th coming in? Slash a late dive into the pits. Rex follows, Sneaky follows. Slash picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The rest of the guys did follow, and Slash was the only one that sped into the pits. So Slash now at a 5-second deficit from the rest of those other guys in the pit lane. And his car isn't moving out of the pits. So I was saying that, I think that was just a glitch on the screen as well. So yeah, Slash out of the pit, out of his pit box, but a 5-second deficit, as I said, to the rest of the other guys behind him, is now going to prove very hard for him to try and catch up, well, at least get a 5-second gap from the rest of the guys behind him. More games, picking up the fastest lap of the session so far, and he hasn't really made any inroads in comparison to the rest of the guys, but luckily for him, everybody else's tyres out in front will be relatively cold, so more games. I think we're going to start to see a bit more gains from him on this lap.
Yeah, hopefully he should be able to, once we get in the S section, that should be where we'll see him gain a lot of time on the drivers in front. Bunty's lost a bit of time in that pit stop phase, so I think Bunty and More Games will be a bit separated now from the pack in front, but at least More Games is now back within DRS range. It was 2.5 seconds back from this queue before the pit stop, and he's back within DRS range of Bunty already. So, in fact, that pit stop phase has worked out quite nicely for the McLaren driver to get him back into range now. So, Rekurik into the pit lane, then Gladbach stays out for another lap. Not surprised, he's got absolutely no threat around him, so he can just do whatever he wants. It's looking a bit like those track maps we saw earlier on in the F1 season of Alonso holding everybody up and then just the top 2 or 3 drivers out on their own at the moment, because Gladbach has got 2/3 of the track pretty much entirely to himself at the moment, and everybody else is coming towards the stadium section. So yeah, Gladbach is loving life down in front at the moment. He is easily out in front. I've been looking at his lap times as well. He has been running in the mid-19s on these hard compound tyres from about lap 12 up until now. So that is really strong pace on an old set of hard compound tyres. So yeah, looking very strong in that Alfa Romeo's. Ben JS gets the fastest lap of the race across the line in 18.5. Good lap for Ben, but unfortunately because of that spin, he's not in the battle with the drivers in front. You've got to say, without that spin, Ben JS would be probably right in the thick of this battle between Bunty and More Games, you've got to say. So for a first race back after a long old holiday, been a pretty solid showing for Ben JS despite the spin.
Yeah, I think he needed that little break. It's benefited him quite nicely from the looks of things. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, Slash now back out of the pits, and same with Rick. In fact, Gladbach is into the pits, so Rick is about 28 seconds behind him. This is obviously on the Delta, but I don't think Gladbach really needs to worry about anything. As I said, he's got literally acres behind him. So yeah, Gladbach already getting those tyres changed and already coming out of the pit as well. So yeah, I think Gladbach hasn't really got anything to worry about. Rick still proving very good pace, but at the moment Slash, from the looks of things, I think is starting to gain on Rick from it. Obviously, I know he was going to be on colder tyres in comparison to those guys behind him, but Slash, and that proves it, fastest lap of the race. And as I say, that's Sneaky now picking up the fastest lap of the race. Rex hasn't got DRS, Sneaky does. I think we're going to see a move here going for 5th to 4th for the Portuguese driver. Goes down the inside of Rex, coming up towards turn number 1. Doesn't really need the ERS to use it, both running low on ERS, shall we say. And Sneaky up into 4th position now, going to try and chase down Slash. But Rick, yeah, 6.2 seconds now behind Gladbach. Of course, Gladbach's going to have relatively cold tyres as well. But I'm assuming we'll probably see the Alfa Romeo as soon as he gets that on the next lap. I'm assuming his tyres will be all up to temperature, and he'll probably just soar off back into the distance once again. But yeah, now that Rick's tyres are warmed up a bit more, Slash again now starting to lose time to the Finn up in 2nd position.
Yeah, it's looking that way, isn't it? I think Rekurik is just not as fast as Gladbach, but comfortably clear of the rest. So he's just kind of running in no man's land at the moment. I'm just pretty sure Rekurik is having a very boring race at the moment, but it's a great drive for him nonetheless. Now we get to see what Sneaky can do. How quickly can Sneaky catch Slash? And if he does catch and pass Slash, what is Sneaky's pace in clean air? That will be interesting to see because, of course, after that contact on the first lap, we've not really seen it. I think it's good to bear in mind that, like we mentioned a couple of times, Sneaky was running in, well, plumb last at the start of the first lap of the race after that contact, and he's managed to recover to 4th position. So it's been a great recovery drive from the Ferrari driver. So he's definitely got a great pace in this race as well. Rex just losing touch now in that Mercedes. Bunty and More Games having their own battle, but after that pit stop phase, they've just dropped back from these guys in front ever so slightly. So Bunty and More Games kind of in a battle of their own at the moment. Not really at the top of D2 pace-wise, but kind of a lot faster and a lot cleaner than the rest of the drivers behind, because everybody behind has made some sort of mistake in this race. So, yeah, they're looking pretty good for a D2 season so far. Bunty more games, they've got good solid pace. They may just need to find a little bit extra to be proper top championship contenders. But yeah, been a good race for them so far. It's been a good race for quite a few people, and yeah, that gap between Rekurik and Slash is extending now. It's back up to 7 seconds. So yeah, Rekurik definitely a lot more comfortable in pace, and Slash picks up a penalty for his troubles as well.
Yeah, 11 seconds of pens now for Slash in that McLaren, so not exactly off to a good start for him as well. Sneaky now back within DRS of Slash, and Rex losing touch from Sneaky as well. Well, I'm saying that, I think, oh no, Slash actually did make a bit of a mistake, because look at the gap now. Sneaky 5/10 of a second behind Slash, so yeah, Slash did make a mistake through that stadium section. 7.5 seconds now separates Rick and Slash as well, and I think Slash is going to be massively under pressure. I wonder if Rex actually picked up any DRS as well. It doesn't look as if the American has, so he has been dropped by these guys in 3rd and 4th, and they're battling for that position. The lucky thing for Sneaky, though, is that he has got less penalties in comparison to Slash, and Sneaky, yeah, definitely a good candidate as well for a potential of top of Division 2, even potentially for a Division 1 spot as well, with that qualifying pace that he provided. But yeah, Sneaky now, of course, with that DRS onto the back of Slash once again. The Portuguese driver is just going to have to remain behind the McLaren, but yeah, other than that, there's not really any sort of other battles that are going on. I mean, more games have now dropped out of DRS from Bunty, Larkin reasonably close to RJ, Brent dropping out of DRS from Camk. I did see Camk just get past Brent, but of course Brent on 21 lap old medium tyres, and in fact, as I say that, Chill and Brent very close to each other as well, and I think Chill might actually even get the move done on Brent coming up in towards turn number 4. Just going to ride on board with that one as Chill going around the outside. Brent, not much that he can answer for, especially with 21 lap old medium tyres. I wonder if Brent's either going to try and take these to the end or pit for a set of the softs within the last 6 laps to try and just go for a fastest lap or anything like that. But yeah, Brent now down into 13th position. RJ, I think his tyres are probably the worst out of a lot of them as well, though. 23 laps he's done on these medium tyres, and they are probably screaming at him to get them changed ASAP. But it doesn't look as if Larkin is actually making any inroads on the Red Bull driver, interestingly enough.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the case, does it? I think RJ, well, traditionally RJ in the past has always been good with tyres. I think that remains the case, but I think it's just a case of, we've seen already in France and here, that Larkin just doesn't seem particularly comfortable on this game, whereas I think RJ is less error prone but doesn't have the raw speed of Larkin. So while Larkin may be a little bit faster, I think you're more likely to see someone like Larkin spin than RJ, which is why maybe Larkin's struggling to close in. He's just worried about making too many a mistake at this point in the race, which is why he isn't closing in at this point. So yeah, I think that is why Larkin's probably not closing in. I would be shocked if they got these tyres to the end of the race. I think we'll probably be seeing them pitting in a few laps' time for a set of soft compound tyres to go to the end of the race. Other people I'm looking at as well, I think it's fair to say that Camke and Chill don't really have the pace of this lobby by the looks of things. They've just kind of been at the back doing their own thing, running around fairly close to one another. Camke's just been about 2 seconds up the road from Chill for the majority of this race. So I think you've got to say they're probably candidates to go down or lobby if there was anybody in lobby 3 that was looking particularly fast. I know LFR Flex was one of those drivers looking very, very fast in the previous lobby. So I think they're definitely ones candidates to move down. Same to Ryan B as well. We know he's on older tyres, but at the moment just doesn't seem to have the raw pace to be able to keep up with the drivers in this lobby. Just looking to the front, I'm interested. It's quite an interesting battle, this one, between Slash and Sneaky, because Sneaky caught to the back of Slash very quickly and now just hasn't really been able to make a move. He's not been able to find a way past, unfortunately. He's just kind of sat behind the McLaren as they fall further and further away from Rekurik and Gladbach at the front of the field. But likewise, they are still pulling away from Rex Bunty and more games behind. So yeah, interesting from Sneaky. He had great pace catching up to the McLaren, but now that he's actually behind the McLaren, he's not really made any headway.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So I'm quite surprised that he hasn't actually managed to get that move done, like you say. I would have thought, he caught up relatively quickly. I know it's one thing catching someone and then another thing overtaking them, but at the same time, with the speed that he had catching them, I would have thought that move would have been done relatively quickly. I don't know if Sneaky is just is just going to stay behind him and just jump him on penalties or what, but it doesn't particularly matter too much if he did that or not. However, I know he will have DRS, coming down the start-finish straight. Slash and Sneaky both on relatively low ERS as well, but Sneaky just get a little bit more to play with in comparison to Slash. Yeah, a lot of other guys have made their pit stops as well. They've pitted for a set of the soft compounder tyre. RJ, Larkin, Brent and Ryan B all opting to go for those soft compounder tyres for that 2-stop. Obviously, probably a few of them didn't want to do a 2-stop, but they've been sort of forced to go ahead and do that. And a little bit of a battle brewing between two of the XL boys of RJ and Larkin. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen between those guys, because as I said, they're relatively close to each other on track. Just coming through the stadium section now, as I can see it on the mini-map, but I'm still just right on board at the moment with Slash and Sneaky, because as I said, this is the two closest of what is going on between these two guys at the moment. And yeah, everyone other than those top two as well picking up penalties throughout the field. And again, I think that just shows the different caliber of what these two guys at the front can do in comparison to everyone else. And speaking of penalties, Bunty picks up yet another 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, I think that's the worrying thing for a lot of these drivers, is that the top two are pulling away at such a vast rate, and neither of them have a penalty, whereas everybody behind is just picking up penalties left, right and centre. We've got Slash on 11, Sneaky on 3, Rex on 9, Bunty's on 12 seconds of penalties, more games on 3, Ben 9, Cam K 3. Everybody basically has a penalty apart from the top two, and the top two is still faster than everybody else. So, yeah, I think that is definitely nerve-wracking for the rest of the field at this point in the race. I've got to keep my eye on more games, because more games did fall back from Bunty, but he's starting to recatch them at the Haas ever so slightly. So again, in the second half of a stint, Bunty seems to struggle a little bit when the tyres get a bit older. I think he's maybe a bit more confident on a fresh set of tyres, but when the tyres do start to wear in percentage and they get a little bit more tricky to drive, I think Bunty is just a little bit nervous, and more games maybe a bit more comfortable at that point in the race. So that is just another little battle to keep an eye on the road. Sneaky has finally managed to get the move done on Slash and is up into third place on the road. So now this is a good reference point to see what Sneaky's pace is relative to Rekurik. Can Sneaky now catch up to Rekurik, or is Rekurik just genuinely faster than the pair of them?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. We need to keep our eye out on. One thing I am going to switch over to, though, is this battle RJ versus Larkin coming up towards turn number 1. Larkin going to go down the inside of the Red Bull driver. Speaking of that, Bunty spun at the S section as well. So Bunty now falling victim to the S section. Has he picked himself up any sort of wing damage? It looks as if he's come away unscathed, so I think Bunty is going to be happy to sort of continue, but those tyres are going to be screaming at the back of them as well. And now Ben JS close to the back of Bunty. Chill and Cam K as well. Stat battle's starting to drop a little bit more as Chill picking up another 3-second time penalty, but Chill has managed to catch up to the back of Cam K, and it just looks like Cam K, like you said, these two guys I think are probably candidates to possibly go down into the 3rd division for this season as well. But yeah, this battle between Slash and Sneaky still going on between them, and same with RJ and Larkin. In fact, RJ very close to the back of Larkin. Obviously, you got Larkin getting the overtake done earlier on in the lap, but RJ is just doing a very good job of keeping up with him. And saying that, though, he has a little bit of a half spin through the stadium section, so it's going to cost him a couple of attempts at least, and what probably could have been an easy move for him down the DRS straight on this lap. Now, I think it's going to prove that a lot more difficult. Slash yet another 3-second time penalty. I think that brings his total up to about 14 seconds. Chill another 3-second time penalty. I think pick two penalties up now in the space of 2 laps, interestingly enough. So 6 warnings in 2 laps. Not too sure what corners Chill is cutting within this, but I'm assuming that S section is not being very kind to him.
No, it doesn't look very kind, does it? Unfortunately, it's not been a good couple of laps, unfortunately, for the AlphaTauri driver. But yeah, he's just trying his hardest to close up to the back of Cam K, but it's just kind of been this gap for the whole race between these two. They've kind of been this far apart for the majority of the race so far. We're still battling with Larkin and RJ. RJ is latching back onto the back of the Alfa Romeo, trying to find a way back through and up into 11th position on the road. But again, like we've mentioned a couple of times already tonight, this is well out of position for what we'd expect from the likes of Larkin and RJ. You would expect them to be fighting at the front, as RJ again another wobble, this time in the S section, but just about gets away with it. I'm looking to the pace difference between the two Ferraris at the moment. Sneaky is running fairly low on ERS, but Sneaky at this point in the race is matching Rekurik's race pace. They are pretty much identical at the moment, the two Ferraris, in terms of race pace, and Slash using the DRS is just kind of pulling himself along with Sneaky. So I think that is fair to say that Sneaky is definitely looking D1 race pace material at this point in the race. So yeah, that looks like the case, doesn't it? I think the top four are all candidates potentially. I think
Yeah.
I think the top two are probably solidly D1 pace at this point. Sneaky and Slash are strong candidates to move up if there's any other people that we feel may need to move down. So that's what it's looking like at the moment. So of all the people we would say that would be staying in D2, Rex is the leader of those. And fair play to Rex. Rex has picked up a few penalties, but he had a bit of an up and down season last season in Division 3. He had a couple of wins that were very strong performances, but then at other points he just wasn't really competitive and was struggling to finish inside the top 10. But so far in both preseason races, he's had a pretty good, solid running and shown great pace as Chill picks up yet another penalty. So make that 9 seconds in 4 laps that he's been able to pick up. And the other, Aston Martin of Brent, has just spun coming out of turn number 6. So yeah, Brent's race goes from bad to worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, not a good one for Brent. Chill. I don't know how he's managing to pick up 9 seconds of penalties. Is that Larkin that's gone
race
around
leader
as well?
Has spun.
Oh, race leader.
No, it's Gladbach. Wow. Our race leader Gladbach, I don't know if he was distracted a little bit by Ryan B. He was just lapping the Williams, but at the start of the S section, he's just dropped the car. Luckily, he's able to spin like that and still lead this race. That's the advantage he had, but that's now put Rekurik right on the back of him. So now Rekurik finally could have a sniff at a victory here. Gladbach's going to have to take a few corners just to cool those tyres down. And now Rekurik has an opening to try and potentially win this race.
Yeah, so massive opportunity now for Rick to try and go for this win. And I don't think he was expecting that. I think he was just happy or just content with just sort of staying behind, just doing what he can at the moment. And yeah, well, now this has put, it's now going to put a bit more pressure on Gladbach. Of course, he's got still a bit more ERS in comparison to the Finn, but at the same time now that's going to put a bit more pressure on the Alfa Romeo to try and get that gap once again out to Rick. But yeah, I think these two, as I said, I think they're already solid contenders. Despite Gladbach having the spin, he still keeps the lead of this race, which is just, it's quite insane that is the case. But yeah, I think these top two, as I said, they're strong candidates. The top four, shall we say, are all relatively strong candidates for keeping for their Division 1 hopes, shall we say. Rex, like you were saying, you know, he's had solid pace so far. It's not been the pace of those top 4 guys, but at the same time, Rex is doing a very good job out in 5th position. As I was saying, now Gladbach has actually lost that position for Rick. I don't know if that was through the S section, but and he made another mistake. But Rick is now up into the lead of this race. I don't know what had happened there. I wasn't catching on board with it, but yeah, Rick now up into the lead, up ahead of Gladbach.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that one either. I don't know if he had a wobble coming out of the turn 6 hairpin or something, because that was where they were on track. But yeah, really weird place to lose the lead of this race. So I think he may have just made a little bit of a mistake coming out of the hairpin, and Rekurik has been able to capitalise on it. But DRS now enabled, and Gladbach should be able to breeze back, passing into the lead of this race down the pit straight, you would imagine. Back ahead of the Ferraris, he moves to the inside line, and there you go, just breezes back past Rekurik and up into the lead of the race. So yeah, but maybe another wobble there for Gladbach at the end of the race, but he's back into the lead of the race, and they are still comfortably clear of the rest of the field, that they can continue this battle and not have to worry too much at this point in the race. Bunty picks up another time penalty, but interestingly for Bunty, he's picked up that time penalty and had that spin, of course, but since that spin, he's actually been able to pull away again from Ben JS. So Ben JS at the moment not quite up to speed with the drivers in front, but well, I do kind of feel bad for, well, a lot of these drivers in this field, because everybody's so spread out, but especially Ben JS, because he can't keep up with Bunty in front, who's had a spin, but he's 14 seconds ahead of Cam K, who's the car behind. So I think Ben JS is having a pretty boring run at the moment in the mid-pack, doing a solid job considering his early spin as well. But yeah, it's just been a shame, hasn't it? This I think the lack of a safety car, of course, hasn't helped here tonight. Yeah. I think we would have had a couple of safety cars at least with the crashes that we have had, and that would have made the race a lot more interesting. But I think this just goes to prove that this game is still really, really difficult to master. The curves, how the cars handle as well, how we don't really know what setups work and what don't at this point in the race is just making these cars very, very difficult to drive, and it's making these league races a little bit more spread out, which is not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing big old trains that end up leading to nothing usually, or absolute carnage at the end of the race. It is a complete opposite of that now. This is probably the most spread out we've seen the league race in, well, the best part of 3 years, I would say, in League of Europe.
And interestingly enough, Division 2 is always the one that is usually sort of quite tight and compact with each other. So it's definitely a different dynamic that we're seeing this in Lobby 2/Division 2. That it's so spread out. obviously, thank God that we're actually doing the placements for tonight/tomorrow as well. I think I think there's definitely a lot of people that we can try and sort of move around to at least make this a little bit more entertaining for everybody else. So saying that though, Chill on the back of Cam K finally caught up to the back of him. Finally gets the move done on the American. The only problem for Chill though, he's got 15 seconds in his back pocket in comparison to Cam K, who only has 3 seconds. And Cam K, I think, is the one with still the most ERS in comparison to everybody else because he's still got about 50% to play with on the penultimate lap. So I'm not too sure why Cam K has kept that much within these last 2 laps, but I think it's probably best for him to start burning that out now to get the move back done on Chill. Could potentially even get the jump on Bunty if he does utilize that ERS to his or to full effect. He could potentially get the move done on Bunty. I think it might be a little bit too far out of reach though, as we're now on to the final lap of the race. And Gladbach yet again, I think, made another mistake because Rick, he got out of that DRS from him and is now back within DRS the Finn. Could we see a move on this final lap? He's using everything he can in his ERS, but I don't think, even with the DRS, I don't think he's going to be close enough to getting a move done. Unless Gladbach has another wobble through this S section, I think this is probably going to be the order we see between these 2 guys. I think at the moment, unless also Gladbach picks up a penalty on this final lap, or Rick picks up a penalty on this final lap, I think, I think just as it stands, this is what we're going to be seeing throughout these 2 guys. But they've both performed exceptionally throughout tonight. It showed the class of the field for sure, Gladbach especially, but yeah, both Rick, a valiant effort from him for sure, and I'm intrigued to see how these 2 guys would fare on for Division 1 for this season.
Yeah, I'm excited to see as well. We've got Larkin and RJ battling a bit further down the field for that 11th position. Larkin just winning out, but Gladbach coming around the final corner. It was a close run to the end. He did make a couple of mistakes, but in the end it was absolute domination from the Alfa Romeo driver. He wins then the second evaluation race around Mexico. Rikurik, as you would expect, a great performance from the Ferrari driver, making a good name for himself as across the line come Slash and Sneaky. And Slash, despite finishing just behind Sneaky on the road, drops to nearly 12 seconds back because of the penalties. Rex stays in 5th by 0.6 of a second. More Games crosses the line, misses out on 5th by 0.2 of a second. So it was very close in the end between Slash at Rex and More Games. Penalty wise, Bunty spun again around the final corner on the final lap, so that's not going to help in him trying to stay ahead of the likes of Cam K at the end of this race. Crosses the line, Ben JS gets 7th in the end. Bunty will drop to 8th. So it was a great start to the race, but it fell apart unfortunately for the Haas driver in the latter stages. Chill crosses the line with his many penalties. Cam K will get both Chill and Bunty on penalties at the end of that one, and now it's just a wait and see as everybody else crosses the finish line. It's only Larkin and Chill that need to finish this race, and they do so. So, yeah, a very spread out race, not a lot of talking points, but I will say probably a busy night and a very busy tomorrow for the likes of us trying to sort out these divisions, because yet again after France we are still not really much closer to seeing exactly what the full division fields are going to look like.
Yeah, I think this is it's a long night for us. That's what we'll say. It's a long night for us, but yeah, there is definitely some that we can say we're confident in moving up/down. And there's a few that we could contemplate with that, because obviously not everyone has actually even turned up tonight. There's a few guys that we did have on reserve that, you know, are full-time drivers that we know are solid Division 2/Division 1/Division 3 pace. So, and it goes the same for anywhere else. You know, for each of the lobbies, I don't think there has been anyone that is solid other than a couple of guys. I think there is a lot we will need to work on. I'm only just seeing Lobby 4's finishing as well, and the gaps in that are ridiculously spread out as well. So I think there's a lot we're going to need to go through tonight, Aidan, and I think we are in for the long haul, to be honest with you. So I think this is going to make that a bit interesting for ourselves. But regardless of that, for this race, the top 2, they just performed exceptionally. They deserved it. Fair play to the pair of them, Gladbach and Rick, 1st and 2nd. Sneaky manages to pick himself up 3rd in the end. Slash in 4th, Rex in 5th, More Games is in 6th, Ben JS is in 7th, Cam K is in 8th, Bunty in 9th, Larkin rounding out that top 10, RJ in 11th. And if it was an official round for us in the League of Europe, Chill would have picked up the final points in P12 and Larkin would have picked up the fastest lap point. Brent is in 13th, Ryan being 14th, Sully, Screen Time and Felipe and Evans all unfortunately not being able to finish a race. And in fact, I did also clock Sully retiring in the pits. Not exactly a good one to go ahead with. I know he was a lap down, but and had various spins, but not exactly a good one, a good way to try and prove that you deserve to be a full-time driver for the League of Europe. But again, I suppose we'll wait and see with that. But yeah, I think that well, that's it for the pre-season races for season 8. We've definitely got our work cut out for us, but I'm intrigued on who's going to be where, and make sure you guys are tuning in next week for the first round of the season, where we will see who will be where throughout this season to come. So, Aidan, any final thoughts for ourselves?
Anybody watching this right now, please wish us luck for tonight and tomorrow. It's going to be a very long time trying to sort out these divisions. But I think the field spread and everything at the moment and how difficult this game is, I think it's going to make this a very interesting season. I think we've seen in the past few seasons, at least on the game, where the field spread hasn't been particularly big and the games have been fairly easy, is that it's often the people that are just winning at the front constantly ending up winning the championship, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case this time around. I feel like we're going to see a lot more track dependency. We're going to see a lot of mistakes this season as well, which will inevitably cause a lot of safety cars. So we're going to have to see maybe not necessarily the fastest person will win this championship. I think maybe the smartest person will do so. So it's definitely a new dynamic in terms of league racing that we haven't seen for a while on the F1 games. So I think that is definitely going to make season 8 very, very interesting. So while I'm not looking forward to actually sorting out the divisions, I'm looking forward to seeing how the divisions turn out once we get started this time next week.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, like I said, make sure you guys are tuning in for that one for next week, where we will have the divisions all done. And as I said, it'll be the first round of the season for Bahrain. Like I said, 6:30 p.m. for Division 1 and Division 3, and 8:10 p.m. for Division 2 and Division 4. Don't think there will be a Division 5 for this season. I think we've been off too many people for that one, but I suppose that is in good health with that. So, yeah, make sure you guys are tuning in for that next week. But thank you to everyone that has tuned in for tonight. And as I said, we'll catch you guys next week for the first round of season number 8 around Bahrain.